Hello, welcome to Drive Thru Review 115. Today I'm going to talk about Samurai Battles. I actually did sort of a quick rundown a couple of weeks ago on the game. Today I'm going to go into more detail on the two rule sets. You've got the Command and Colors, and you've got the Art of Tactic. Now I may break this into two parts as far as the rules go. We'll see how long it goes. But I'll do Command and Colors first, and then I'll cover Art of Tactic afterwards. And then either at the end of this video or the second video, I will give you my full review of the game. So let me just jump into how this works. If you're familiar with Command and Colors Ancients, then the Command and Colors rule set will seem very familiar. And if you've played the other Art of Tactic game, then obviously this will be more familiar. But there are definitely idiosyncrasies and differences and things to keep in mind. So let's get right to it. So you can see I've got a variety of components set up on a board here. I've got some different units. These are made up of individual soldiers here. So you can see this unit here, I've got the yellow flags on this side and the red flags on that side. And here's one of the individual soldiers of this unit down here. So this one's got a flag. So when this unit gets depleted as it takes damage in the battle, you're going to remove these off of the board, and then the last one that you'll remove is this one here with the flag. And then you'll take that and sort of add that as a victory point for your side. Now, all of these different units behave in a different way. So this is a melee only unit here. You can see this unit here has this little circle. And this is a range unit, but there's two different circle units, or different types of range units. And these guys have guns, and these guys act a little bit differently than this unit here. And these guys have bows and arrows like that. So these guys, the bows and arrow guys, you can actually move and shoot with them, whereas if you move with the gunners, then you can't shoot. But the gunners have a little bit more range. They can actually shoot up to 3 hexes away, where the bow and arrow guys can only shoot up to 2 hexes away. And that's only for ranged combat. If they move, then they can engage in melee combat, but the gunners cannot engage in ranged combat if they move. And part of the thing with the symbols here is it will indicate what type of die will kill a unit in there. So if somebody is battling this yellow unit here, and I roll the die, then anytime they roll a triangle, which will match the symbol here, then I will take out a unit of that type. Whereas if I was attacking the unit with a circle, I take out a circle, and then here's the square. You can see here's the square unit here. And this is sort of your slow-moving, heavy melee. They roll lots of dice when they do combat, and you'll take out that. So that anybody that's familiar with Command and Colors will be, used to this sort of die rolling. Now, if you roll a sword, then you may inflict damage or lose a unit with the sword. However, your unit needs to be more superior to the type of unit that is attacking. And swords are ignored in ranged combat. So if you roll these are no good. Now there's sort of a hierarchy. So these cavalry units, which are also a square, are sort of the most superior unit on the board. And you can see that's pretty cool there with the detail on the model there. So if, let's say I was fighting against him with a triangle unit in melee against this vastly superior cavalry unit, then it can actually ignore one sword against it, so that'll be a miss. Whereas if it was fighting the triangle unit in the other way, then all of the swords would hit because they're more superior in the melee combat. Now the other thing you may roll in combat would be these flags, and these are retreat markers. So again, Command and Colors, bread and butter. So if you roll against that, then most of the time you're going to have to retreat your unit back to a space equal to the number of flags that you rolled. So if this one was being attacked, let's move these up here, by these guys over here, then they would attack, and then these guys would have to retreat one space for each flag. Now there's a little bit more to that, and I'll get into that in just a second. However, you can ignore flags. So if you were supported by up to 2 adjacent units, let's say I had this unit here and possibly another yellow unit here, then he could ignore a flag, up to 1 flag. But in this case, he's out of luck because he only has 1 adjacent unit to him. Also, if you have a leader attached to your unit, and here's a leader here. You can see the leader unit has their own little special symbol on the flag, and these can join up with different units and even be ordered differently to separate from the units, but you don't really want to do that because that's bad juju right there. So if you have a leader in your unit, you can also ignore up to 1 flag in that sense. So remember I said there's something a little bit extra with the retreating in here. Well, before we get to that, let's look at the last thing you can roll on this die. And that is this little honor and fortune symbol here. Now to start each scenario in each game, players are going to get a specific amount of these. And you're going to use these and spend these in the game to do more exciting effects, but you also want to keep these in your reserve, because when you have to retreat, you're actually going to lose these depending on the type of unit and if there's a leader with it. Basically one of these for each hex that you retreat. Now, any of the units that have a square, whether it's this big infantry guys or this cavalry guys here, you're actually going to lose 2 of these honor and fortune tokens for each of the spaces that you retreat. Now, it's a little harder because these guys are a little tougher, but also if you have a leader attached to that unit, you're going to have to lose an additional honor and fortune token. Now, if you don't have honor and fortune tokens to spend when you retreat, you're going to have a lot of chaos that's going to happen in your battlefield. Let me explain that. So when that happens, you're going to roll, or your attacker will actually roll 4 dice, and they're going to roll that, and then you're going to have to lose, for each symbol that's rolled in there, a unit, a soldier of that unit. However, if you roll a symbol that's not of that unit, you're going to look for the nearest unit of that type. So if there are no squares in this particular unit, you would go look for the nearest one, and they would have to lose one. So it's sort of like your ranks have sort of, just the communication's broken down, there's chaos, people are running for their lives, they're turning into cowards. So you need to, basically, this is sort of like willpower of your army, so it's pretty cool. So you want to keep those in reserve. So that's basically the short gist of battling. You've got leaders that are going to provide support. If they're adjacent, you can roll an additional die, or if they're part of the unit, you can roll additional die when attacking. Each of these different unit types will be able to roll a certain number of die. Like these square units here will roll 4 dice in melee combat. The triangles will roll 2. The circles will roll 2, or if they're in range, they'll be able to roll 2. The gunners, if they can roll 2, but then up to 3 spaces, they can actually roll just 1 die. So it's kind of like taking a pot shot. Because remember, rifle play was in its infancy here, so it wasn't that reliable, especially at a distance. So as a turn is actually going to work, it's pretty much like every CNC game. You're going to get a hand of, not those cards, these cards here. And you can see I sleeve them differently, like so. These are dragon cards, and these have a red back here on these ones here, and these are your normal command and color cards. So to start each scenario, you're going to get a certain number of these cards and a certain number of these dragon cards. And anybody familiar with CNC, again, is going to be able to easily figure out what these do. Issue an order to 2 units or leaders in the center section. So each of these sections here is dividing the board up. So I play that, I can order 2 guys in the center, order 1 in each of these. Here's a one that's just like an Ancients here. You can order a block of units, so up to 4 units that are contiguously adjacent on the board. You can have them all move as one space and then all do combat. And there's a bunch of other little special cards like so. Just basic CNC bread and butter. And I should say that the little symbol here at the top of some of these cards means that if you give this order to a unit, then the leader is able actually to split from the unit when you play this order card, like so. Otherwise, they have to kind of stay with the unit and operate sort of together as a team. Now, also here are these dragon cards, and these are really sort of the fun part of the game. Now, you can play these at different times during the game, and you'll see cost here, and that's the amount of honor tokens that you have to spend when you play the card. And this is when you can play it. So play after your opponent's close combat roll. So you can play this in a response actually to an attack. Or like this one, play alongside your command card. So you play your command card, pay the 1 honor token, and play this. And these do all kinds of crazy different effects. Usually the more that they cost, the better they are. And there's just a ton of just cool things you can do with this. So the game really is about balancing out your sort of aggression and you managing your honor pool. Because you can spend all your honor and play these cards, but then you can really get hosed by the dice, let's say, when you're attacking, so that maybe it wasn't as wise of a decision to play this, and then you're out of honor tokens on your opponent's turn. When you get attacked, you don't have enough to prevent the retreats. You get chaos in the ranks, so it's really kind of a neat sort of willpower type of thing. That it really kind of comes into play, I think, in these ancient battles where the fortitude of the men that were putting themselves on the line and putting their body just in complete harm's way here. It really it's kind of a cool aspect and describes that pretty well. Now at the end of your turn, you have a choice. You're always going to draw a new command card, but you have a choice of either drawing a dragon card or taking 2 honor back into your pool. In addition, after you've done that, if you have not played a dragon card that turn, you may have a somewhat worthless dragon card, let's say. Some dragon cards will specifically mention a tent unit, which you may not even have in the scenario. So you can discard that if you don't want it, and then you can take 1 honor token. That's if you haven't played one at all this turn. So we've got different terrain. I'm not going to go into the details of all the different terrain. It's pretty traditional wargame stuff. One of the cool things with this is it comes with these little stands you can put the hills on, so you have a real kind of 3D view of the board. One thing that is actually pretty cool though is if you have a leader here, and instead of letting him get killed and letting him retreat and sapping your honor, you can actually have him commit seppuku. I don't know how to say that exactly, but he basically commits suicide, where they drive the sword through their stomach. So you're going to lose him. Now, typically, when your opponent kills him, he's going to immediately go and act as a point, as a victory point. But if you have him commit seppuku, then he doesn't get the point. He's dead. He's off the field, and you get 5 honor. So it's sort of a sacrificial, motivational kind of thing for your troops to get more honor and stuff. So that's actually a pretty cool thing. A couple other details, and I'm just forgetting them because they're just like ancients. So if you're doing melee combat, you can actually gain ground. So if I retreated or killed a guy in this space and I did combat there, I can actually gain ground and then possibly do another attack. The other thing is if I engage in melee combat, which is really one of my favorite parts of this and ancients, if I do melee combat here from yellow to red, I'll roll the dice and do some damage. If they have any units left, then they're able to battle back and then actually do melee combat back to me. So you've got to be sort of careful with that. And that actually plays in nicely with some of these command cards, because you can kind of surprise and kind of pull off these kind of cool maneuvers and things like that, or even respond with your own maneuver of your own. The other thing is whenever a unit with a leader takes damage, then you have to roll a casualty check. So in the case of a melee combat, if you did some damage to that unit, you're going to have to roll, and if you roll a sword, then the leader's wiped out and he's gone. Or you can even do it in a ranged combat and you roll 2 dice, and you have to roll in that case 2 swords, so it's a little bit less likely that you'll take out the leader in that case. Now I had these out here, these little trays or stands here. Now when you play the Command and Colors version, you're not really supposed to use these, and I guess you could. I kind of tried using them for a little bit, but they just sort of got in the way. And just got, you can just pick and move these up, and it's pretty easy. These are actually used in the Art of Tactic, but some people might want to use those. And you've got these other flags here, which I'll explain in a little bit. These are Art of Tactic flags. That's pretty much it. Traditional CNC, you're going to play your command card, maybe some dragon cards. Really need to work on conserving your honor, and kind of do what you normally do in these CNC games. Try to save cards for when you really need them, and just have fun with it. The game plays really quickly. The setup is a little bit long just because you got to fish out all the figures that go with the different types of units. I've got them bagged up in different types of bags. So that takes up a little bit of time, but once you get a game in, you can get a game in 20 to 30 minutes or so, and you can play a couple of games pretty quickly. So it's very fun. CNC is just a great system all around.